Hello, and welcome to this Microbiology Bio 203 video lecture from Chapter 24 of your OpenStax book, Digestive System Infections. I'm Mr. Kennedy, and I'll be your guide as we explore this topic together. Learning outcomes for Chapter 24 include being able to describe the major digestive system infections caused by bacteria, viruses, fungus, helminths, and protozoa. Gastrointestinal diseases. Gastrointestinal diseases often have common symptoms which include diarrhea, gastroenteritis, and dysentery. They are treated with fluid and electrolyte replacement. Infection in the GI tract is caused by the growth of a pathogen. Incubation time for an infection ranges from 12 hours to 2 weeks. Intoxication in the GI tract is caused by the presence of a toxin. Here, the symptoms appear in 1 to 48 hours. Your GI tract is comprised of the oral cavity, pharynx, esophagus, small intestine, and large intestine. It also has accessory organs such as the salivary glands, liver, and pancreas. It is open to the environment. As such, it must defend itself against foreign invaders. The GI tract has a number of warm, dark, and moist areas that could easily support the growth of pathogenic organisms. Mucus produced by goblet cells, the movement of that mucus using peristalsis, and the pH of the GI tract are all effective lines of defense against microorganism growth or the growth of pathogens. Gut-associated lymphatic tissue and the normal microbiota that exist in these areas round out the GI tract's lines of defenses. The normal microbiota of the GI tract can be found most prominently in the large intestine. There, they limit the growth of pathogens, help with the digestion of food, and the production of vitamins. Signs and symptoms. When the GI tract is dealing with a foreign pathogen, there are some signs and symptoms that we use to describe the type of infection that's occurring. Gastritis is the inflammation of the stomach lining. Enteritis is the inflammation of the intestinal mucosa. Hepatitis is the inflammation of the liver. Colitis, inflammation of the colon, and dysentery, bloody, and mucus in the watery stools. Dental caries, or cavities. These are microbial lesions that damage your teeth. They can infect deeper tissues, form abscesses, and get into the bloodstream. Plaque is often associated with tooth damage, which is a biofilm that attaches to the teeth. Streptococcus mutans is a common organism that causes dental caries and plaque formation. Sucrose is broken down to glucose, which forms dextran, and fructose, which is a fermented acid, by Streptococcus mutans. Calcified plaque is what we call tartar. When the gums become inflamed, a patient has gingivitis. This is an illustration of a cavity. Periodontal disease is infections causing damage to the structures surrounding the teeth. Worsening gingivitis creates anaerobic environments that can support microbial growth from a wide variety of species. Periodontitis occurs as your gums recede and your teeth are exposed and easily attacked. Acute necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis or trench mouth can result if left untreated. Oral infections. Herpetic gingivosimitis, which is caused by HSV1, causes ulcers in the mucous membranes of the mouth. Oral thrush is caused by candida and is common in infants and patients who are immunodeficient. Mumps is an infection of the parotid glands and caused by the mumps virus. Foodborne diseases. Foodborne diseases often lead to intoxication and in some cases infection. Intoxication occurs when a toxin is produced before ingestion and a patient will feel symptoms shortly thereafter the item is ingested. Infection occurs when the toxin is produced after ingestion and an organism has colonized its host. This is usually a slower process, and a patient won't feel symptoms for some time. The illustration on this slide is meant to share with you the points at which we should be concerned about food temperature. The longer a food item sits out at a warm temperature, the greater the risk of intoxication and potential infection. Staphylococcal food poisoning is caused by Staph aureus growing in food and producing enterotoxins. These enterotoxins may act as superantigens and cause nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. They often have a rapid onset but resolve themselves in about 24 hours. Shigellosis. Shigellosis is caused by a number of Shigellosis species, which are gram-negative rods. They enter through the fecal-oral route and cause tissue damage and dysentery. Shingotoxin is an endotoxin that damages epithelial cells. The toxin can target kidneys and cause hemolytic uremic syndrome. Salmonellosis is caused by a gram-negative Salmonella species. It is usually ingested through contaminated food or exposure to raw eggs and poultry. It can penetrate epithelial cells and cause inflammation. It too is self-limiting. Typhoid fever is caused by Serovar of S. enteretica species. It is more severe, has about a 10% mortality if untreated. It may result in ulceration and perforation of the intestines. It can be treated with antibiotics, and vaccines do exist. E. coli infections. E. coli is a common member of normal microbiota. Some strains, however, are pathogenic. It enters the body through ingestion of contaminated food. This table will provide you with a summary of some pathogenic groups of E. coli. At this point, pause the video to review those groups, their virulence factors and genes, signs, symptoms, and treatment. Cholera and other vibrios. Vibrio cholerae, serotype 01, is a gram-negative spiral bacterium which enters the body through contaminated water and food, poor sanitation. Cholera toxin is an AB toxin. It causes diarrhea with large water loss or rice water stools. It is treated through rehydration and antibiotic therapies. Non-cholera vibrios are listed in this table. Take a moment to pause the video, familiarize yourself with each. Campylobacter. Campylobacter are gram-negative spiral curve bacteria, which are ingested through infected poultry. It is mostly self-limiting. Peptic ulcers are caused by Helicobacter pylori, which is a gram-negative bacteria. This bacteria can resist the acidic pH in the stomach by producing ammonia. It damages the cells and also produces toxins. It is the major cause of peptic ulcers associated with stomach cancer. Clostridium difficile, or C. diff, is a gram-positive anaerobic spore-forming organism. In healthy individuals, it can be part of the normal microbiota. Long-term antibiotic use allows for its overgrowth and causes antibiotic-associated diarrhea. It produces two toxins, an A and a B. It can cause pseudomembranous colitis, and perforation of the colon can occur. Foodborne illness due to Bacillus cereus. Bacillus cereus is a gram-positive, spore-forming rod. It's common in soil and can survive cooking. Rice dishes left at room temperature for too long are a good source of potential exposure. It produces two toxins and can lead to intoxication or a very rapid reaction of nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Food illness due to Yersinia. This Yersinia is not Yersinia pestis, which causes the plague. This is Yersinia enterocolitica. It enters the body through the fecal-oral route, produces endotoxins and exotoxins, and is usually self-limiting. Viral gastroenteritis is the leading cause of death for children in the developing world and is mainly caused by rotavirus. Rotavirus, norovirus, and astrovirus are all viruses that cause gastroenteritis. Rotavirus is an RNA virus that causes diarrhea. Vaccines do exist to prevent its infection. Norovirus is very contagious and common on cruise ships. Both cause diarrhea, vomiting, and cramping. Astrovirus is an RNS virus and causes severe gastroenteritis. Hepatitis causes inflammation of the liver. There are 5 main viruses associated with it. Signs and symptoms are similar, which include malaise, loss of appetite, dark urine, and jaundice. The viruses differ in transmission and potential to become chronic. This table will summarize the different types, their transmission, their characteristics, antimicrobial drugs, and vaccines used to prevent them. Protozoan infections of the GI tract usually occur through contaminated food and water. Poor sanitation creates the highest risk for protozoan infections. Outbreaks occur when public water supplies are contaminated. Giardias is called backpacker's diarrhea or beaver fever. Giardia is a flagellated protist. Its spore stage is resistant to cold and chlorine. When ingested, it can cause diarrhea, malaise, nausea, and greasy stools. Cryptosporidosis is caused by Cryptosporidium. It is ingested through contaminated food and water or contact with certain animals. Symptoms include watery diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and cramps. It is usually self-limiting and common in immunocompromised patients. Amoebiasis is caused by Entamoeba histolytica. Another name for amoebiasis is amoebic dysentery. Patients contract this through exposure to contaminated food or water. It occurs mostly in the developing world and is one of the leading causes of mortality from parasitic diseases and is very contagious. This table will summarize the protozoan infections of the GI tract. Pause the video and familiarize yourself with the disease, the pathogens, signs, symptoms, transmission, and treatments. Helminthic infections of the GI tract. Helminthic infections of the GI tract are widespread. It was once said that 1 in 10 people worldwide will have one form or another of helminth living in their digestive tract. There are 3 groups of helminths to concern yourselves with: nematodes, segmented worms, and non-segmented worms. The nematodes include roundworms, pinworms, hookworms, and whipworms. The segmented worms, or cestodes, are flatworms that can be found in beef, pork, and fish. The non-segmented flatworms, or trematodes, are flukes and can be found free-living. Ascaris. Ascaris worms are large, round nematode worms. The eggs are transmitted through contaminated food or water. Infections are usually asymptomatic. The adults can experience intestinal blockages. Hookworm. Hookworm can be found in the United States and Australia, Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. The larvae penetrate the skin from the soil, travel through the blood to the lungs, and eventually to the intestines, where they cause anemia. Strongylosis. This is a soil-transmitted organism which can be free-living or a parasite. It is transmitted from the soil to the skin. Patients with this organism are usually asymptomatic. Some cases can be severe when immunosuppressed. Pinworms. Pinworms are the most common helminthic infection in the United States, especially in children. They live and enter the body through the fecal-oral route and can be treated with mendenzimol. Trichuriasis, or whipworm, is a soil-contaminated organism that enters the body when food is ingested or people bite their fingernails or touch their mouth. It prefers warm environments, does well in areas of poor sanitation. People with this are often asymptomatic that may cause a rectal prolapse. Trichinosis. Trichinosis is caused by trichinella, which enters the body through food, mostly undercooked pork. It can travel into the muscle and form cysts. Tapeworms. Tapeworms are ingested by eating undercooked meat. There are beef, pork, and even fish tapeworms. The tapeworm has a head or scolex which attaches to the intestinal wall. Once attached, the worm will simply take what it needs from its host as food passes by it. It will release its eggs into the fecal matter to complete its life cycle. Individuals with tapeworms are often asymptomatic or might experience mild symptoms. Weight loss can occur and intestinal blockages. Hyded disease is caused by a cestode. This is a severe disease. The definitive host of this disease is a dog, but there may be many intermediates. It is transmitted through feces and causes cysts in your internal organs, such as your lungs and liver. Flukes. Flukes are flatworms. There are liver flukes and intestinal flukes. Liver flukes come in a variety of different species and can inhabit and travel from aquatic plants to fish, snails, and eventually to people. Intestinal flukes will develop in the intestines. This table will surmise the different types of helminth infections that can occur in the GI tract. Pause the video and take a moment to familiarize yourself with each before moving on. And this concludes our coverage of Chapter 24, Digestive System Infections.